Nintendo finally reminded me why I love Star Fox games, but they also reminded me why the series deserves so much more. Welcome to Final Save. The save file is not complete, so let's go ahead and talk Star Fox. I cannot believe that it's been 10 years since we got the last Star Fox game, and it feels great to have the crew back in action, especially since Star Fox Zero left a lot of fans like myself disappointed with the whole force motion controls and design choices that to this day confuses me to no end. But with this retelling of Star Fox 64, you can tell right away they learned from the mistakes, making the gameplay on this one a fun time to be had.
Do a barrel roll!
Flying the R-Wing on the game feels so smooth and satisfying. Right away, just jumping into Corneria, pulling off barrel rolls, and hearing the interaction between everybody on the radio immediately gave me that feeling I haven't had since the Nintendo 64 days.
Some top-notch shooting if I do say so myself.
And Nintendo did such a great job with this game presentation-wise. The environments and the backgrounds look great, and taking in the scenery with the fantastic soundtrack in the background, it just captures that classic fast-paced Star Fox feeling all of us remember the series for. And I really like the way the R-Wing's control in this game. I used the Pro Controller for this one, but you can use the Joy-Cons and even the mouse controls if you like. And they all feel very natural. I am not a big fan of the mouse controls on the Switch too, but they feel very responsive with the game, at least on my experience. Whichever control type you pick, it's not gonna take away from the experience, but sometimes keeping things simple is what makes the game work. And I'm glad to see that the Star Fox Zero mistake was not repeated here. The whole looking at two screens back and forth with mandatory motion controls thankfully is completely gone. Just grab your controller, kick it back, and shoot anything in sight. Just don't shoot your friends or you're never gonna hear the end of it.
Hey, not cool, Fox.
Well, don't get in front of me, Slippy! And I'm personally glad that Nintendo knows what makes Star Fox work after all of these years. So what's going on? Once I got past the initial excitement of jumping back into the R-Wing, I started noticing the game mechanics a little bit more. And I think Star Fox is probably one of those series that is not too complicated to explain. It's an on-rails experience where you fly around your R-Wing, shoot enemies, pull off barrel rolls while listening to Falco's snarkiness, telling me how bad I suck at the game.
You learn to shoot like that at the Academy?
And something I always like about Star Fox is how every member is completely different, like Peppy giving you tactical advice, Falco running around on his own, or Slippy getting in trouble every 5 minutes.
Pay attention, Slippy!
The reason none of these characters are similar to each other is what makes the game work for me. And on this new remake of the remake, it makes those interactions feel even more alive than back in the Nintendo 64 days. The all-range mode is fun too, just giving you a break from the on-rail sections. On this mode, you'll fly anywhere you want, shoot enemies inside, just giving you more freedom to move around. And for some boss fights and even multiplayer, it's a design choice that definitely works. But we'll talk about that later. The pacing also works here because Star Fox is not a game where you get a set of missions, get to the final boss, and call it a day. Actually, it's very different. Instead, depending on the choices you make, you can choose between different planets, getting a completely different experience each and every time. So replayability is of the essence here if you want to see everything the game has to offer. And every playthrough will take you around an hour to an hour and a half to complete, so there's a lot to see here and it can be addicting too. And it was interesting hearing the different conversation lines between how good or bad I did on the mission. Thankfully though, the mission structure makes sense and there is very little changes from the previous games. Depending how the mission went, you can choose between 2 planets or it becomes a predetermined path until the end, which thankfully is not like games like Shadow the Hedgehog. There's not a bunch of non-canon nonsensical missions or anything like that. Instead, it's just different ways to get to the end fight against Andross.
Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?
Shadow language. The game is an easy to pick up and play experience, and one run will turn into 3, 4, and just before you know it, the whole night completely disappear. So this right here does tell me Nintendo knows how to make Star Fox fun. The story here is simple but entertaining, and the gameplay is great. So Nintendo, why are we still stuck telling the same story over again? This right here is the part that bugs me because I had a blast with the game, but I wish Nintendo was not so afraid to move the series forward. We waited 10 years, and we're back in Corneria, fighting Andross again, going through an experience we played multiple times in the past. We did it on the original Star Fox 64, the 3DS port, Star Fox Zero, and now the Switch 2 version. Yes, the story here is great, and the way they did it on the Switch 2 version to me is the definitive way to experience it, especially if you never played a Star Fox game in the past. adding cutscenes between missions, a new prologue, and a much better ending for beating the true final boss. But it's time to make the series move forward instead of hitting the reset button over and over. Nintendo has proven that the series has potential to move forward, and I like going back to older games like Adventures and Assault. And look, whether you love or hate those games, that's a different topic for a different video, but at least they were trying something completely different. Adventures gave you a massive world to explore, introduced Crystal, and gave us a completely different experience outside the R-Wing. Assault moved the story forward instead of starting all over again. And we got to see the team fight a completely different threat with Crystal now as a core part of the team. Both games had their own issues, yes, but it was good to see Nintendo try something completely different instead of fighting Andross each and every time. We even got breaks from Ganondorf in the Legend of Zelda games. Like, look at Majora's Mask. No Zelda, no Ganondorf, no Triforce, and it's one of the best Zelda games ever made. And even if you don't share that feeling, that's totally fine, but you cannot deny the quality that Nintendo brought with that game. And I think it's a shame because Star Fox deserves another fun adventure, not another introduction. And look, I am not going to jump in the bandwagon of everybody complaining how the game looks. I do agree that the way they made Fox look in the Mario Galaxy movie was way better than this, but the design choices here, they're fine, they're not horrendous or like a lot of people are saying online. So I'm definitely not going to spend a lot of time on this. They don't look great, they look okay, they could have been better, but it's not a deal breaker. But enough complaining for now, let's talk about the actual game. This is what you probably click on the video for, and I do not want to come across like I did not like the game because I do appreciate what we got here. The story itself expands on what we got on Star Fox 64, giving us a prequel cutscene showing James McCloud, Pikmin's betrayal, and how James saved Peppy from a certain doom. And then fast forward 5 years later and Fox takes over the Star Fox team with Peppy still by his side, while Falco and Slippy become the newest members of the team. And from here it becomes very straightforward. Andross launches an attack on Corneria, General Pepper contacts the Star Fox team requesting their services to help them fight back. The story changes depending on the branching paths you take, and there's always something new waiting around the corner. And not to spoil later game sections, let's start with Corneria. On this section, Falco gets in trouble and you have to act quickly to get the enemies off his tail. And if you do that, he will challenge you to go through all of these stone arcs like a flying obstacle course. On the original game, you did not get a single clue of what to do here. But on this version, if you succeed, Falco will tell you to follow him behind the waterfall, taking you through a different route, a different fight, and a different branching path going forward. Almost every planet has a branching path like this, but only a few of them will take you to the true ending boss fight, so you have to act quickly not to miss out on some cool dialogue and story bits. But their replayability is how you get the most out of the story. There were multiple times when I was done with a mission, I immediately wanted to go back and see what other routes or boss fights were waiting for me. Every level is gonna take you about 3 to 5 minutes to complete, and the level concludes with a boss fight, and these bosses can range from officers of Andross's army all the way to the classic Star Wolf team. And the fights with the Star Wolf team on both occasions can either be frustrating or fun. Like on this section right here on Ficina, you have to shoot them down before the timer runs out. And they can be annoying to find sometimes no matter how many barrel rolls I did. They will always find a way to be on my tail. I got him right here thankfully, but I was cutting it a little too close. The boss fights are cool to look at, but once you get used to them, you can bring most of these bosses down quite easily. I mean, that's the way it was back on the N64 days too. They're not supposed to be excruciatingly hard, just a fun creative fight before you move on to the next planet. But what else is there besides playing through the same story over and over? Well, I'm glad you asked, because single player wise, there's also challenges that definitely earn that name. On this mode, instead of going through one planet to the next, you can freely select any planet you like, and it takes you through 192 challenges throughout the game's 16 stages. And it can vary for something like you gotta score X amount of hits before taking damage, destroy a certain type of enemy, or complete the stage with a certain time. And yes, these challenges will take repetition and patience to get through a lot of them. But look, if challenges are not your cup of tea, Star Fox actually added a complete multiplayer experience. And this mode right here has to be some of the most fun I had in a multiplayer game in quite a while. And look, the modes they offer here are nothing groundbreaking. You get like 3 different modes and a handful of planets that go from zone control, which is pretty much like a match of domination, cargo theft, which is essentially capture the flag, and the unique one they did here is crystal scramble, in which you have to shoot down the meteors falling down and collect the crystals before the timer runs out. And the modes are a blast to play, and I had a lot of fun with these maps, except when I got stuck with some headache-inducing teammates, but that's every multiplayer game out there. But what worries me though, it's the lack of variety. Going from a handful of modes and a handful of stages, things get repetitive quickly. It's fun to jump in for a few matches here and there, but as a long-term multiplayer game, I do not see it lasting that long unless we get more maps, more modes, and more things to do. But as it stands right now, the multiplayer community might not stay around for long. I spent around 30 hours with the game before making this video, and I will keep coming back for more. I have more challenges to complete and a hard mode to keep me busy for hours. And this is why I think Star Fox deserves so much more, like I said in the beginning of the video. I just hope that this is the final reset we get before moving on to new adventures. And Nintendo, do not make us wait another 10 years. We are still waiting for a new 3D Mario game, and let's please not do the same thing for Star Fox. Which makes me wonder, if they do make a new game, what's next? Are they gonna follow up on stories like Adventures or Assault? Or perhaps something completely new? I guess we'll find out sooner or later. But while we're talking about the subject, Nintendo, while you're at it, can we get another F-Zero game? Captain Falco has been sleeping for way too long, and it's time to bring him out of retirement. Well, this comes down to the last question. Is Star Fox on the Switch 2 worth a save? Absolutely. I had a great time with the game, the flying feels great, the story expands on what we got before, and I just hope they keep expanding on the multiplayer side to keep the community active long term. And I'll be honest, I thought we were getting something like Star Fox Zero 2. I was not liking the game before I even touched the controller. But I'm glad that feeling went away the second I started playing, so Nintendo, please build on this, take a chance, because Star Fox sure deserves another save. And if you made it this far, thank you for sticking around. Like and subscribe for more videos like this. Have a fantastic night, and I'll see you on the next one.